What is poppin', YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we're doing my top 6 must-draft running backs for 2023 fantasy football. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you are one of the 76% viewers that are not subscribed, what are you doing? We want you in this community. We want you in the live mock drafts that we're doing pretty much 4 to 5 times a week. Want you in those. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's go. My first must-draft running back right now is Jonathan Taylor. JT for the Colts. Now, I know it looks a little bleak right now. Just came out yesterday that there was the personal news that he had to take a personal leave of absence after he's already had this back injury. We're a little bit worried already about touches. A lot of people, Anthony Richardson is announced as QB1. A lot of people are saying, Caleb, why are you taking Jonathan Taylor? The touchdown upside isn't there. Anthony Richardson, he's not going to check the ball down, and that's what made Jonathan Taylor such a great running back in his RB overall season in 2021. And I will say, I totally hear you on that. But when we look at last season, RB 17 on a fantasy points per game basis, only 4 total touchdowns in the 11 games he played. And now he did play 11 games, but he was a little banged up. We had Jeff Saturday coming in mid-year, just absolutely terrible offense. I mean, the fact of the matter is when you have Zach Moss, who is getting 15 to 17 touches towards the end of the season, is absolutely ridiculous. And so for me with Jonathan Taylor, I hear you when you're saying, Caleb, I just don't see how Jonathan Taylor emerges back to relevance. The thing is, in his rookie season, 16.9 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB8. Of course, his RB1 overall season, 22 fantasy points per game. He had 20 total touchdowns and 40 receptions. And so for me, I don't think he's necessarily going to touch 20 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to touch 40 receptions. But the thing that we do have to remember with Jonathan Taylor is even if this offense takes a step, let's say he is in between. Let's say he gets where he got his rookie season, where he got 12 total touchdowns. I think that is more than doable for my man, Jonathan Taylor. Right now on Underdog Leagues, we're talking about Jonathan Taylor being drafted as the RB8. And based on his rookie season, which I think is easily in his range of outcomes, in his floor range, we're drafting him essentially at his floor. Now, if you believe that the Colts are going to take a step forward offensively, even if Anthony Richardson struggles, they are going to be running the ball ground and pound. But the difference when you're running with a rookie quarterback that can run is the defense can't necessarily just focus in on Jonathan Taylor. And with them not being able to focus exactly in on Jonathan Taylor, that's going to leave a lot of holes open for Quentin Nelson to open up for our boy JT. And I'm excited for it. Now, if we get closer to the season and all of a sudden we're talking about Jonathan Taylor is holding out or he gets traded, I think if he gets traded, great for Jonathan Taylor. Even more value up on the way. But even if he doesn't and he starts to play, I'm super excited about it, but make sure you keep an eye out because right now I think he's a great value, but the moment it says he's holding out or maybe he's going to take off the whole year, I don't think that's going to happen because it's not in his best interest, of his contract. You should be a little wary, but with the assumption that he's playing, Jonathan Taylor is a must draft for me at his current value baked in. My second must draft running back is Jahmyr Gibbs. We've seen all these videos of Jahmyr Gibbs in the preseason catching the passes. And the thing that we love about Jahmyr Gibbs, it's not just that he's a pass catching back. And you could say, Caleb, I don't like drafting rookie running backs. And I totally hear you. But it's the value of being able to get him in the 3rd round. When you're able to get a running back in the 3rd round, that gives you so much flexibility in those first 2 rounds. Whether you go wide receiver, and then Jahmyr Gibbs is your RB1. Or maybe you go wide receiver, running back, and then Jahmyr Gibbs is your RB2. I love Jahmyr Gibbs in the 3rd round. And the real reason that I love Jahmyr Gibbs in the 3rd round is because when you're typically looking at these 3rd round running backs, you're either looking at a young stud or you're looking at someone that has produced before but maybe doesn't have the same type of upside because if they did, they'd be going a lot earlier. But with Jahmyr Gibbs, he gets drafted to the Detroit Lions at pick 12. And by Jahmyr Gibbs getting top 15 round 1 draft capital as a running back, they are going to use him. He is super explosive. He's going to get dump-offs from Jared Goff. The offense, as much as we love Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's still questions about Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta being a rookie, but the offensive line is absolutely great. So if we're excited for Jahmyr Gibbs, who at his last season here with Alabama, put up 44 receptions in 12 games. So imagine he plays 15, 16 games this season. We're talking about a guy that could easily in his range of outcomes get to 60, 65 receptions, and dare I say it, cross that 70 reception threshold. Now I know David Montgomery is in the offense. So you're going to say to me, Caleb, Jamal Williams had 20 total touchdowns last season. Even if Jahmyr Gibbs is there, David Montgomery is going to be the guy that gets those 20 touchdowns. Now, for me, I think the splits are going to be a little bit different. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jahmyr Gibbs get in that 8 to 9 total touchdown mark. And even if he does that, we're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs being a top 7, top 8 running back, and you're not even having to draft him like that right now. Right now, in your underdog leagues, he's going off as RB11. So if we're assuming that he's going off around RB11, RB10, in your redraft leagues with your casual league mates, all of a sudden Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be such a great value to be taking. So I absolutely love Jahmyr Gibbs. He's my second must-draft running back ever. When I'm in 3rd, I'm absolutely targeting Jahmyr Gibbs. My 3rd must-draft running back is going to be Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders with the Carolina Panthers, gets the big contract. I mean, not huge, but 2-year contract for a guy coming off that rookie contract. Not a lot of guys get this type of contract. And Miles Sanders is coming in to be the 3-down bell cow for the Carolina Panthers. Pair him up with Bryce Young. The backfield's looking a little short. He's looking like the real quarterback, being a little bit taller. Bryce, of course, is looking like he's going to kindergarten class. But I digress. The thing that I love about Miles Sanders is that he's shown the ability in the times where he was durable to get a ton of rushing attempts. We look at last year, he played 17 games, 259 rushing attempts, RB21 on a fantasy points per game basis with 11 total touchdowns, 20 receptions, 1,200 yards. Now you're going to say to me, Caleb, that is not great. But we look at last season, opportunity share. He was RB12 in opportunity share. He was RB3 on team run plays per game, which of course the Eagles are running the ball a ton. But if we look at his productivity overall, we're looking at him as the RB5 on rushing yards last season. We're looking at him as the RB9 with total touchdowns. And the thing is, it just didn't translate necessarily to a high fantasy points per game metrics. But when we look at where we're having to draft him, like I said, he's RB21. But where are you having to draft Miles Sanders? We're having to draft Miles Sanders at RB19. So if we can assume he's not having to compete with Jalen Hurts securing all of those extra rushing touchdowns, now we can assume that the Carolina Panthers are not going to be the same type of offense. They're going to be down a lot. The Carolina Panthers, their defense stinks. So if we're assuming they're going to be in some bad game scripts, I can totally hear you and understand you when you're saying, I don't think Miles Sanders is a great value right now. But when you're able to then see that there's really no one else, we're talking Miles Sanders, they got rid of Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard's in the backfield. Give me Miles Sanders getting these touches. He's the best 3rd down option they have. He's the best early down option. And we have seen explosive plays. When he was at Penn State, he was almost like hyped up as like the second coming of Saquon Barkley. So we need to remember that he does have high draft pedigree. He was drafted in the 2nd round by the Eagles. He can be that dude. And I think he will be that dude this year, given the extra opportunity. My 4th must-draft running back is going to be James Cook. James Cook with the Buffalo Bills. Now, I know what a lot of people are saying. Sigh of relief, Dalvin Cook does not sign with the Buffalo Bills. Now, all we have to talk about is James Cook versus Damien Harris. With what we're talking about with James Cook, the thing that I like to hear are the camp reports saying James Cook looks explosive. When you hear that a running back looks like the most explosive running back on the roster, all of a sudden, that makes me excited. And not only does that make me excited, it makes me then look at his season stats last season when he only put up 6.3 fantasy points per game. But then it says, Caleb, let's dive deeper to see if this guy can get the opportunity share that is needed to produce a very solid fantasy football stats. When we're looking at his efficiency last season, and this is where it's really excited, 6.3 yards per touch, put him as RB3. 12.1% breakaway run rate, put him as RB1. So first off, he's elusive because he's having a high yards created, yards per touch, high breakaway run rate, which means he has game-wrecking speed. Then let's add 2 things on top of it. First, the team was the 3rd best game script for running backs. Then we add in that they had the number 1 run blocking ratio. All of a sudden, we're looking at ourselves and we're saying, there's some really good stats that point to the fact that the team is good enough to supplant and have, if they had a good running back behind Josh Allen, to produce really great fantasy points per game. And I think James Cook could definitely be that because not only is he elusive, not only does he have the breakaway run rate, he also can catch the freaking ball. And I think a lot of people were worried, can you handle a 3-down workload? I don't think he's going to have to because, of course, I still think Damien Harris is going to get quite a few carries. Damien Harris is also going to get a few touchdowns. But I think we can easily project James Cook to not have 3 total touchdowns at the end of the season. I think we're talking about James Cook getting in that 7 to 8 touchdown range, upping his receptions because he had 21 last season. I think you could easily project him to have 45 to 50 this season. And if those rushing attempts go from 91 to 200, all of a sudden we're talking about James Cook in a lot better light than where he's currently going in underdog drafts. In underdog drafts currently right now, he's going as RB27. So taking him, James Cook, as RB27, yes. You're having to draft him in like the 7th round of your sleeper league. But you have to draft based on value, based on projection. We want these young stud running backs that have the draft pedigree, because James Cook got that 2nd round draft capital 2 seasons ago, that has the opportunity and is flashed. And he's flashed. He's done all of those things. So James Cook is my 4th must draft running back everywhere. So go draft James Cook. Don't be scared. He's wearing number 4. Just imagine it's Dalvin Cook. It's like the same exact thing. Makes you feel better if you're not a James Cook believer. My 5th must draft running back everywhere is going to be Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet, I think, is coming for Ken Walker's job. I think drafting Ken Walker in the 4th, it's kind of a little bit risky because then you can get Zach Charbonnet. He's going in like the 7th, 8th round, depending on your league. Currently, right now in underdog drafts, Zach Charbonnet is going after the RB36. And Zach Charbonnet, 6 foot, a little bit bigger than Ken Walker, and also got that 2nd round draft capital. Pete Carroll doesn't just go draft back-to-back running backs in the 2nd round if he doesn't believe that you're a dude. Now, of course, we do know Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. And if he loves to run the ball, then that should be great signs for Zach Charbonnet being able to take the work off of Ken Walker And then we add in the fact that Zach Charbonnet is also a better pass catcher. He's also bigger. All signs point to Zach Charbonnet actually potentially has the ability to steal the job away from Ken Walker. And I know Mike Clay does great projections. Mike Clay has like Ken Walker getting like 58 to 60% of the touches, and he has Zach Charbonnet getting like 40%. But all it takes is one injury, it takes one flash of Zach Charbonnet, and all of a sudden we're talking about Zach Charbonnet getting 60% of the touches and Ken Walker getting 40, but yet you're already getting like a 3 to 4 round discount on Zach Charbonnet. Give me that guy over Ken Walker. And so I absolutely love Zach Charbonnet. Loved him as a prospect. He was my RB3 coming out into the draft. And I still absolutely love Zach Charbonnet, even though a lot of people are scared of Ken Walker. Do not be scared of Ken Walker. Draft some Zach Charbonnet. And my sixth and final must-draft running back is going to be Tank Bigsby. Now, we saw the photos. If you didn't on Twitter, I'll post this picture right here of Tank Bigsby next to Travis Etienne. And people are saying, oh, Tank Bigsby looks a little bit bigger. Doug Peterson wants to run running back by committee. This guy is going to take Travis Etienne's lunch. Guys. Travis Etienne is still the more explosive running back. I know Tank Bigsby had a great run in the preseason, but the thing that we have to remember about Tank Bigsby is he did not get the draft capital. He didn't get the second round draft capital, which says a few things. He did get drafted in the third round, but for me with Tank Bigsby, I think he definitely is going to come in and help Travis Etienne. I do like Travis Etienne. When we're talking about Travis Etienne, yes, do I prefer Jahmyr Gibbs? Yes, but when you're talking like Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, like those are hard decisions that you have to make in your fantasy football drafts. I don't think, but I like the value that Tank Bigsby provides later on in drafts, considering the fact that if maybe I took Breece Hall, I'm able to draft Tank Bigsby and get a piece of this Jaguars offense, because currently right now in underdog drafts, we're talking about Tank Bigsby going after his RB42. And if you can imagine, if something were to happen to Travis Etienne, where Travis Etienne went down, and all of a sudden Tank Bigsby can jump in and provide high-end RB2, low-end RB1 weeks on a few different weeks for you, all of a sudden that RB42 price tag is going to pay off. And I think that is something that is super exciting, where even on a week-to-week basis, if somehow Tank Bigsby finds the end zone, adds in 30 rushing yards, we're talking about a guy that could provide you some value in your flex. And if something were to happen where you're super, super weak at running back, maybe went very much so 0 RB, Tank Bigsby is that perfect candidate for you. I did like him coming out of Auburn. I, of course, was a little bit disappointed in his draft capital and his stature, but we cannot take everything into consideration. Tank Bigsby seems like a great value in our redraft fantasy football leagues. So he is my sixth must-draft running back. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Appreciate everyone for tuning in here today. If you wouldn't mind, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm putting out videos each and every day, want you in these mock drafts, so I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.